Let's take a look at how to install a BOC onto a container. For those of you that saw the how to make a BOC video, you'll remember that I apologized. No, I didn't apologize. I told people that I shake now because of a medical condition. So expect me to do that a lot. I swear it's not the DTs. I've had them and I know the difference. So if we take a look now at the bottom flap of the container, you'll notice that I've already undone the side flaps from it. You might think this is excessive and want to skip this step. Don't. It makes a huge difference to how easily this pocket goes on and how nice the finished product looks. I'm going to take a ruler and I'm going to put a mark at 1.5 inches from the edge of this binding tape here. The binding tape edge gets used up when the flaps get sewn together. So effectively I'm at the edge of the main container now. And I'm going to put a mark at about 1.5 inches on the back pad binding tape. That's going to be the lineup for the spandex portion of the pocket. You might be wondering why the spandex isn't flush up against the edge. Well, in reality, you don't want the hacky sack, free fly handle, monkey fist, PVC handle, whatever, sticking out past the edge of the container, because you're in a situation there where it could get accidentally deployed. You also don't want it so far in that you can't find it. And as we've all known from experience now, this is the perfect location, because you can just feel down to the bottom of the container and then there it is. Also, I've positioned it so that the opening of the pocket is on the right side of the container. This is the normal location for it. Just going to stretch out the pocket a little bit and this seam here, and then line up the front of the spandex with my mark, and then put a mark on the back so I know where the pocket ends, or begins, I guess. What we're going to do now is we're going to go and sew the pocket to the container. So we'll take a little walk over here. One thing I should have said is that try and do this when it's a reserve repack cycle. Ideally, you don't want the reserve in there when you're doing this, because you're really going to have to wrestle this around the head of a sewing machine, and there's no point to that. Make it as easy as you can. I'll just check that I don't have anything under the area I'm going to sew, and then bring the work into the machine to approximately that first mark. I'm now going to butt up the edge of the binding tape on the pocket so it's touching the edge of the binding tape on the back pad. I'm going to try, and hopefully not fail, but try and follow the lines that are already on the binding tape from the stitching. I'm going to start out by doing 3 or 4 straight stitches and then back up a couple stitches just to anchor it. And now I'm going to work really hard at keeping these two together while sewing down the pocket. To the edge of the pocket and then back up a few stitches, and we'll take it out of that. Trim out your thread. Whenever you're moving spandex underneath the needle, be careful that you're not going to prick it and damage it, it being the spandex. Now put your second row of stitching in on the second row of stitching on your BOC. And if you'd be kind enough, give me a bit of credit that normally I'd be doing this with black binding tape. On any colored rig, I make black pockets. And then you can really hide your stitch into where it looks fantastic. Get a few stitches in, back up. And now it's much easier to manipulate the rig because the pocket is already sewn down to it. So you've just got to steer the fabric. And back up a couple stitches. Now the reason I started on that edge is it's the only one that absolutely has something to line up against and matters both from a function and an appearance point of view. Now the rest of this we don't need any marks because we've got a pocket that has a Parapack layer on it and it's not going to stretch all out of control. We can just lightly pull the pocket against the container. This time I'm going to go around the inside row first because it's easier to stay on it and it'll get it anchored, and then when I have to do the outside row I'll have an easier time of that. Alright, about there. That should do us. Nope, about half a stitch early. We'll just move it into position. About there. I'll make sure the pocket is flat against the bottom flap. Keep following that stitch. And again about a half stitch. There we go. And back it up a few. Trimming my threads out each time because for those of you that don't, you end up with a mess where the thread gets sewn in to the next row of sewing and it just doesn't look as good. It takes no extra effort, so there's the sewing tip there. Now we're going to go round the outside edge, or I should say the outside row. Again, be careful and pay attention that you don't get anything under this flap that's just gonna get messed up and have you having to unpick it. Perfect. And there we have it. At this point you can take out a lighter, hit the threads that are left at the ends with it. Do some practice pulls. Put a live pilot chute in here, packed the way it's supposed to be, and practice with it. Make sure that the handle is where you want it to be. Make sure that the force of the pull is not too much, and for that matter not too little. We don't want the pilot chute just falling out of the pocket, so just be safe with that. Put the flaps back together again. There's so many different varieties, there's no way I'm going to try and film that. They're all variations on the same theme. And for that matter with wingsuits, I guess. No, I don't know what I'm talking about. I don't know what I'm talking about with wingsuits. Yeah, there you are.